So welcome, Steve. I want to thank the organizers of the event for getting us together to talk about transportation a little bit. So Steve, I guess to start out, with all the societal changes you're seeing, how does a rapidly growing city like Austin take advantage of transportation technology, both those that are available now and those that are still being developed for the future?
Well, I'll tell you, we have to look to technology because we have pretty significant challenges. Austin is a magical place, probably one of the reasons why it's the fastest growing metropolitan area in the country and has been for the last 6 years. For all the good things that brings, it also brings significant challenges. Our infrastructure has not kept up with the population growth that we have. That's led not only to mobility challenges, but affordability issues. It's tough to make a transit system you're trying to retrofit. To make the transit system work, you have to focus on frequency online, so you lose reach, which impacts equity. It's hard to get people to that transit line or from that transit line to where they work. So we're looking now for technologies that will help us with that first and last mile, that will bring mobility to people, that will help us with congestion on a street, because as we become more unaffordable, people have to move further away, which means they're on the roads even more. So we see a lot of as technology is our way out of the box. That's our Achilles heel in the city.
And as you think about policy, how, from a policy perspective, do you work to make Austin attractive to companies like General Motors that are bringing technology to transportation?
Well, you know, we're looking really for you guys to help. We can identify the challenge really well. You know, when the technologies were first coming out, we were all enamored of autonomous vehicle technology, but now we're looking for technologies that help us solve problems. So we're looking at the trends, the urbanization. We're looking at millennials that don't seem to want to own cars the same way. We know we have to have a lot more shared vehicles if we're going to get people off our road. So we're looking at manufacturers like GM to be able to come in with solutions. You tell me, how is GM adapting, and what are you bringing to us?
And so first, I should point out, General Motors does have an IT innovation center in Austin with 3,000 employees, and they're all very happy to be part of your community.
We love to have you there.
It's a great city. I would say from the transportation side, to your point, there are technologies that are significantly changing transportation over the next few years. General Motors is active in all of them. And in fact, Mary Barra, our CEO, recently laid out a new vision for the company, and she outlined it as working towards zero emissions, zero crashes, and zero congestion. And I think those three goals have a lot in common with the mayors I've talked to here, what they're working towards with their cities. As far as specific technologies, we have in production the Chevy Bolt, an EV vehicle with over 230 miles of range. I was actually bemused this morning to hear Mayor Hidalgo talk about how difficult it was for her to find an auto manufacturer willing to deploy electric vehicles in a car-sharing fleet, because we've actually already done that in the US in 5 cities, where we're deploying the Bolts in a car-sharing and ride-sharing fleet. And then finally, I'd say we're putting a lot of time and effort into autonomous, and it will be a game changer, both for my industry and for cities. It's an incredibly difficult technology, and I think we, as the auto manufacturer, have an obligation to develop it so that we're certain it's safe. But once we reach that point, I think it'll enable all sorts of things on the city side. So I guess building on that, as you think about autonomous and the potential benefits to the city, what's most attractive to you?
Well, I think, you know, for us, I think that the autonomous capacity with respect to buses is what is something that is real significant opportunity for us, just because it changes the economics of mass transit. And I think that would have a huge impact. Having autonomous vehicles and having people be able to repurpose their garages and actually live in them, or change the need for structured parking in our urban core are all great opportunities. But I'll tell you that if everybody who's driving a car now is driving alone in an autonomous vehicle, we will have lost a huge opportunity and not really advanced in all the ways that we should. So the work with electrification is real important. In Austin, we're trying to electrify our fleets. We're encouraging private development to put in greater numbers of charging stations so that it's available to the community. As a city, we're doing that. So the electrification is real important, but then the car sharing is critical for us, and two different ways to think about car sharing. It's more than one person traveling alone in the same car, or it's more people traveling in the car at the same time, and it's the latter that would really be the game changer for us.
And I completely agree with you. The sharing of rides is the key to bringing the number of vehicles on the road down. And as I said, we're starting to work on what does it take to get to zero congestion. And I think this idea of sharing rides is a good example of where the city and the technology provider will have to work together. We've done some consumer research, and people don't naturally want to share rides. They think it's great if somebody else shares rides, but when you ask people about their habits, they tend to say, well, I'd still like to take my own private robo-taxi to where I'm going. So I think it's a great opportunity maybe for us to nudge the consumer in the right direction to get the right outcomes.
It'll be interesting to see the ways that happens. In Austin, we have just created our first tolled express lane that enables us to demand manage the opportunity to be in that lane. The hope is always to keep the traffic in that lane going at 45 miles per hour, regardless of just always at 45 miles an hour. Buses would travel free. Multi-passenger vans or opportunities would travel for free, but everybody else on that toll lane would pay a toll that would be variable, so as to ensure that the demand or the usage always stayed low enough to have the cars traveling. Our hope is that if people are stuck in traffic and they see all this traffic moving past them, some people will get out of their cars and get in that lane. So a lot of the demand management things to help encourage the culture changes and the mode shift changes, I think, are going to be key.
Yeah. And I think in addition, we can use autonomous vehicles to make the road environment even more friendly to pedestrians and cyclists, something you and I were talking about a while ago. Because I know one of the impediments to more people riding a bike is their concern about road traffic and road safety. And the autonomous vehicles, you never have to worry about them being distracted. They're going to have a very sophisticated suite of sensors on them, and I think they'll actually have quite an impact on improving the environment for some of the other road users.
I think the whole concept of that kind of communication, cars to sensing where the passengers are, but buses and knowing where everybody else is, including cars, being able to speak to and to know where the demand is, the ability to be able to find first and last mile solutions where you have non-fixed route buses and transit that are responding in real time to who's seeking their help to get to and from homes to the transit is going to be real important. Again, because we just can't have the reach with the transit itself and still be able to afford the frequency on the main transit routes.
And I think it's another one of those great opportunities for cities and companies to work together, this idea of first mile, last mile, and how do you take a group of autonomous vehicles and integrate them into the city's transit structure, to your point, to encourage people to use transit, because that is the most efficient way of getting a lot of people from point A to point B.
So the pilot that you're working on right now that I think is real exciting to watch is the Maven pilot. You describe that?
So Maven is the brand that we created internally to explore car sharing and ride sharing. We deploy car sharing fleets, and as I said earlier, we've deployed the Bolt TV in these fleets in the US. We also have a program where we make vehicles available to ride sharing drivers people that want to drive for one of the ride-sharing companies that don't have a vehicle that qualifies. And this actually has been very attractive to cities because it gives people an opportunity to earn an income that maybe don't have that opportunity unless they have access to a vehicle. So with the Bolt in Maven, we've already accumulated 2.3 million EV miles. So it's proving to be very successful.
Well, we raise our hand to be part of that pilot if we can sneak in.
Well, we'll certainly keep Austin in mind. It's a great city. Thanks very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You.